good.
Should I end the show at 11 on the dot, or should I go for 55 minutes?
I would go for 55 minutes.
Okay. Okay, so you do this on the air. You're on the air now. This is the start of the show. Hey, thanks a lot, Zev.
Okay, cool.
All right.
Have a good show.
Thank you. Bye.
All right.
Hi, so this is the SAnTiAgo and cHuck show, and my name is cHuck. And SAnTiAgo is in New York. I just called him. I was talking to him. He said he was standing outside of a restaurant. He said it was very nice. And he also said that it had a bathroom attendant. And but yeah, he's not listening to the show. I don't think anybody's listening, but maybe somebody will listen in the future. I want to, we have been doing kind of emotional Xpera jazz mental noise show, kind of, but and we had my friend Kirk read his poetry. He's been dying to read his poetry, or not dying to, but I mean, so I really wanted to give him an opportunity to read his poetry and stuff. And here come some people walking by. They're making me really self-conscious. They're trying to ignore me because I'm talking into the mic in the window, but now they're by. But they looked at me and then they ignored me because they felt self-conscious too, or they were just like, why is that guy talking in the microphone in the window?
That's why we drafted him.
And that was why that guy got drafted. But so we've been doing the past couple of shows, I guess, where well, if I can just reprise what's been going on last week. SAnTiAgo had some friends in, and they talked about Amy Fisher or Joey Buttafuoco. It was really good, and kind of had some emotional jazz of music. And the week before we just did we did Noise Music Man. And so today I want to start the show off with an observation, and this is going to be a serious show, so I hope that you guys can hang with it for a while, because in a minute it's going to get serious, or a few minutes the theme of the show is the Rio 20 conference that's coming up on June 20th. And I think it's about sustainable development, and it's sponsored by the United Nations. And I have a paper that was submitted to the conference, and it's being it's one of the points to be kind of interacted and studied at the conference. And I'm going to kind of go over the paper a little bit. I've never really done this type of talk ever before in my life, but I think I'll be really good at it, don't you? For everyone who can just psychically guess how I'm going to be, I'm sure that's what you're thinking. But it's going to get really kind of serious and hopeful and fun. It's really amazing, the kind of ideas that are out there. To me, at least, they're pretty amazing and exciting, super exciting. So there's a bunch of ideas that I kind of want to put out there, or that I'm gonna I'm gonna read a bunch too. That might be kind of boring, but I'm just gonna it's a paper, and I love it. I was really moved by it, and I think it really provides pathways, a path, different ways to look at the situations facing the world is with sustainability, and poverty and the environment. Everything that's kind of seems to be coming to this enormous head, and looks really bleak to a lot of people, I think. But there's these ideas that are out there by many philosophers, and obviously, and activists, and I have some really amazing ones, I think, that I want to share. Not my ideas. I'll introduce the paper in a little bit. I can just talk and talk, can I? And I can, just in case you knew, and I can talk to the, I'm actually talking now to a pen, because SAnTiAgo usually recommends that when you do this, you should imagine talking to one person, but instead I'm going to imagine that I'm talking to the pen at the other side of the table. And I can talk to that pen, and the pen's not saying anything back, so it's just letting me go crazy. But like I said, I want to start the show off with an observation, and I wanted to get things off without real bam, kaboom, And my observation was I saw
that was almost an amazing shot.
Vanilla Ice has like a reality TV show on a cable network on a smaller like HG Home Improvement or something, and on it he has a he kind of renovates or refurbishes garages and stuff. It's really great, and does tons of the work and designs a little too, and installs with his crew. And it's Vanilla Ice, right? I think his name's Calvin Brodus. Does anybody get that joke? It's not. That's Snoop Dogg's name, in case I want to fill everybody in. It's Snoop Dogg's real name is Calvin Brodus, not Vanilla Ice. I think his name is Calvin Brode Ice. No. Oh, that was a terrible joke. That was one of the worst jokes that anyone ever tried to do, which I'm able to do. But here's my observation. So I saw, the show, like you really don't see much of Vanilla Ice, but Vanilla Ice is known as, like about 3 weeks ago at work, I was rapping, right? And, for the 100th and 50th time in my life, someone said like, oh, Vanilla Ice, or something to that effect, like a Vanilla Ice derisive joke. So the person was making fun of Vanilla Ice, really, and me at the same time, like white guy rapping, vanilla, and white guy bad rapping, but I rap good, of course, but actually everything's subjective, and I probably rap bad to me a lot, and sometimes I rap good to myself. So even in my own subjective world, I rap good and bad. But I think I don't know how I rapped at that time, but some kind of jokey fun thing. It was fun. I got accused of my aspiring to be Vanilla Ice, essentially, but it got me to thinking, or that didn't really get me to thinking it. But hey, I'm getting a phone call from SAnTiAgo here. Hey, what's going on?
Hey, is it working?
Yeah, you're on the show right now, kind of. Go ahead.
You can put me in with the little thing. How's it going? What are you doing?
I'm just talking away. I'm able to do it just perfectly, as you know. And I was making an observation. I'm making an observation about Vanilla Ice, and then I'm going to go into the paper that I wanted to discuss.
This is wonderful. This is wonderful.
Are you having fun?
Well, I'll try to call you. If I get home, I'll try to call you on the phone line.
Yeah, try. I got it hooked up. The other thing is that I told everyone about the bathroom.
The bathroom?
Yeah, the attendant and everything.
Oh, this is wonderful. Yeah. I didn't have any change, so I give the guy a quarter, and then I can borrow money for my mom.
That's all bathroom attendants get.
He's wearing a bow tie.
Bathroom attendants only get a quarter?
No, they should get a lot more.
$1?
I didn't have any money. I only have 20.
Did he hand you a towel?
Yeah, they hand you a towel and they turn on the water spigot for you to wash your hands. It's horrible.
That's cool, yeah, kind of.
It's like it's horrible. Somebody is very, very, they're just...
I might get that job. Hey, I'll be a bathroom attendant. That sounds like a good job, man. Like, how much pressure is being a bathroom attendant?
Yeah. No, I mean, you're all right, because everybody feels sorry for them.
It just might be smelly.
$5 tip.
Yeah.
It's like $5 tip.
Like, yes, rich guys coming. Are you going to call later?
Have a great show.
All right, I'm doing.
Okay?
All right, bye-bye. You threw me off, but I think I can get right back on it. So the gist of the whole thing was Vanilla Ice looks super great. Someone just gave me a peace sign. I don't know who it is, but he thinks he knows me. But Vanilla Ice looks so good, and he's the brunt or the object of probably millions and millions of ridiculing jokes, and he has to know that, doesn't he? So like, don't you think that would have like some kind of enormous kind of psychic effect on your skin? But hey, not on Vanilla Ice. So whatever Vanilla Ice is doing, to stay healthy, you know, to keep his skin looking good. He looks pretty good, you know. So I just wanted to get that out there for everybody. Vanilla Ice looks good, despite the fact that he's the object of millions upon millions, if not the most made fun of human being alive today. I think, I mean, you know, maybe one day we can try to find out, but here we go. So this is where the show is going to get serious, and it's going to get serious right now. Hold it. So this is an environmental proposal by Daisaku Ikeda. He's the president of the Soka Gakkai International. You can actually read the text on the internet, and the title of the paper is. I'm gonna crank the back music down a little bit.
I don't think you do either. Not that one.
I think I'm gonna crank it down.
5:30.
I cranked it down a little bit. How's that? I like it though. You need some. There you go. We hit a good shot there. He just put all his weight into it. So the name of the paper is For a Sustainable Global Society, Learning for Empowerment and Leadership. And it's, like I said, it was submitted in a precursor to the Conference of the United Nations on June 5th, 2012, which I think was 5 days ago. I'm going to start reading, then I'm going to break and maybe try to talk a little bit about it. And like I said, hopefully this won't be too... This will be kind of interesting for you guys, okay? But so it says, on behalf of the Soka Gakkai International, SGI members in 192 countries and territories around the world, I would like to offer some thoughts and proposals on the occasion of the United Nations Conference on Sustainable Development, Rio+20, to be held in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, starting June 20th. Every year, 53,000 square kilometers of forest are lost. In many countries, water tables continue to drop, provoking chronic water shortages, and it is estimated that almost 25% of the planet's land area is being affected by the processes of desertification. Desertification, that's a hard word for me. These are among the pressing issues the Rio+20, I think that's how you say it, +20 conference must grapple with. But as the conference title, quote, "The Future We Want," suggests, it also represents an effort to develop a clear vision of a more ideal relationship between humankind and Earth. It is crucial that the effort to establish a vision rooted in the awareness that we are neighbors sharing this planet succeeds. And it is even more important that increasing numbers of people feel inspired to work for its realization, both individually and in solidarity with one another. Even the most inspiring vision will become a reality only with the powerful support of civil society. It must be felt as a matter of personal commitment by large numbers of people. It must be shared, reflected in daily life, and firmly established as a guideline shaping patterns of action within society. A focus on people and their daily lives will be essential to ensure that debate on the key themes of the conference, number one, a green economy in the context of sustainable development and poverty eradication, and number two, the institutional framework for sustainable development is meaningful and productive. I therefore hope that the conference's deliberations will be underpinned by a determination to enable people to become agents of change and ensure their sustained commitment and action. The future we want can be achieved only when there is a deep and personal appreciation that we are the ones who must bring it into being. In this proposal, I would like to focus on the kind of empowerment that brings forth the truly limitless potential we all possess. Again, in this proposal, I would like to focus on the kind of empowerment that brings forth the truly limitless potential we all possess. I was trying to highlight that. I'm going to kind of break away from the lecture, and I hope you guys can. Obviously, I have now, and I hope you guys can get when I'm reading the paper when I'm talking as cHuck. But I don't know how to officially do that. But that is truly, that's so exciting to me. To discover that empowerment that brings forth our limitless potential that we all have It isn't. All right, I'm going back. I'm sorry, I'm not going to say that anymore, though, when I go back. It is important that a sense of leadership be fostered within each individual, generating waves of transformation within our communities and societies. Only then can we realize the goal of a sustainable global society in which the inherent dignity of life is given paramount importance. Okay, here we go. A human scale. This section is titled Human Scale. I'm not going to read the whole thing. It's huge, actually. I'll never be able to finish it in this, but I'm going to get into some of the meat of it, and then at least I'll ooh and ah. If not, hopefully make relevant statements. Okay, so a human scale. Addressing the significance of the upcoming conference, Helen Clark, administrator of the United Nations Development Program, made the following powerful statement, quote, "Sustainability is not exclusively or even primarily an environmental issue. It is fundamentally about how we choose to live our lives with an awareness that everything we do has consequences for the 7 billion of us here today, as well as for the billions more who will follow for centuries to come." Yep, that's the first time when I kind of felt a wave of emotion. When I read the part of, with the awareness that everything we do has consequences for the 7 billion of us here today, as well as for the billions more who will follow for centuries to come, unquote. Today there are widespread calls for a paradigm shift. This is back to Mr. Akeda. Today there are widespread calls for a paradigm shift from the pursuit of material wealth to sustainability. To achieve this, we must, of course, review and revise current economic and environmental policies. But this will not be enough. Rather, we must interrogate the very nature of human civilization, from the ways in which our societies are organized to the manner in which we conduct our daily lives. This is not to deny the reality that many societies will continue to prioritize economic growth. But I believe it is necessary for all societies to re-examine the underlying objectives and rationales for growth and be clearly aware of other priorities. I hope that the Rio +20 conference will spur deep and earnest consideration of such questions. The devastating earthquake that struck Japan in March last year brought these issues into stark relief. The inability of the highest levels of economic and social development to contain the damage wrought by this natural disaster was revealed, not only to people in Japan but throughout the world. In the Fukushima nuclear disaster, the unintended consequences of science and technology were on full display. In the large numbers of people forced to evacuate their homes, in the grave and still unmitigated scope of radioactive contamination, and in the as of yet unknown long-term effects on people's health. The loss of human life, the wounding of dignity, the destruction of the familiar nature and ecology of the community. Such are the cruel outcomes wrought not only by natural disaster, but by armed conflict and environmental degradation. In this case, for example, of climate change, no place can be fully free from risk over the long term. The impacts will be felt by all present inhabitants of Earth and further by future generations. In this sense, shifting the orientation of human civilization towards sustainability requires that the issues involved be considered on an authentically human scale. Within the context and experiences of daily life, this is where we must sense the full weight of life's inalienable dignity and reflect on what is truly important to us and what we must come together to protect. This is why it is unacceptable to consider the pursuit of sustainability as simply a matter of adjusting policies in order to find a better balance between economic and ecological imperatives. Rather, sustainability must be understood as a challenge and undertaking requiring the commitment of all individuals. At its heart, sustainability is the work of constructing a society that accords highest priority to the dignity of life, the dignity of all members of present and future generations, and the biosphere that sustains us. The next section is titled The Pursuit of the Possible. I don't know how to say this man's name, but I've known about him forever, seemingly, and so this is, here I am reminded of Aurelio Pecci. It's AurelioPeccei, 1908 to 1984, who by founding the Club of Rome, helped shape the 1972 United Nations Conference on the Human Environment, the earliest precursor to the Rio +20 conference. In the dialogue we published in 1984, he declared, quote, "Mesmerized by our power, we do what we can do and not what we ought to do, and go all the way without taking into consideration any practical do's and don'ts, or even the moral and ethical restraints that we should consider inherent in our new condition." I'm going to read that again, just because of the fact that I felt like I wasn't reading it in an understandable way. So he says, "Mesmerized by our own power, we do what we can do and not what we ought to do, and go all the way without taking into consideration any practical do's and don'ts, or even the moral and ethical restraints that we should consider inherent in our new condition." I was struck by this statement, not least because it resonates at a deep level with the awareness expressed by the founding president of the Sokogakai, Tsunetsuburo Makaguchi, 1871 to 1944. In his 1903 work, The Geography of Human Life, he sketches the following outline of the conditions prevailing in the early years of the 20th century, when a single-minded pursuit of the possible forced a global order in which the strong preyed on the weak with little or no thought to the sacrifices entailed. Quote, "The great powers are constantly on the lookout for an opportunity for profit. In other words, any opening that might be exploited to gain an economic foothold on political advantage. Just as in the physical atmosphere, areas of high pressure flow into those of low pressure, an analogous phenomenon can be seen in international power relations," unquote. Almost 110 years have passed since Makaguchi wrote these words. How much have things changed in the intervening decades? Question. Contemporary civilization continues to be enthralled by an immoral pursuit of the possible, largely unimpeded by ethical constraints. This can be seen in the ceaseless competitive quest for armaments to intimidate others and enhance one's prestige, as well as in global economic competition waged with utter indifference to the issues of poverty and expanding income disparities. The spiral of desire, in which ambitions and impulses are first thought to be well under control, expand in tandem with their successive attainment until they are entirely escape our command, lies at the heart of many of the critical challenges facing our world. The prioritization of economic growth, leading to ecological degradation, financial and economic crises brought on by overheated speculation, the ultimate inhumanity of nuclear weapons. So I don't feel like I read that paragraph in an understandable way. I apologize for that. I'm going to keep going. The accident at the Fukushima nuclear power plant, of course, originated in a natural disaster, but it also demonstrates the severe risks inherent in relying on energy generated through controlled nuclear reactions, risks that had been obscured by an unquestioning faith in the superiority and safety of the Japanese nuclear industry. At the same time, the pursuit of the possible has been an important impetus to development, bringing such benefits as fulfilling essential needs for food, clothing, and shelter, improving people's health and welfare, and dramatically increasing the movement of both people and goods through advances in transportation and communication technologies. Makaguchi did not deny the benefits of this pursuit. In fact, carefully noted the power of positive competition to hone and refine people's capacities and unleash their energy. And in fact, he noted the power and unleash their energy. Quote, "We find progress and development where competition is strong and powerful. Where it is hampered either by natural or human factors, we find stagnation, immobility, and regression," unquote. His prime focus, however, was not on the need to shift away from the kind of military, political, and economic competition. His prime focus, however, was on the need to shift away from the kind of military, political, and economic competition in which benefit is sought for oneself with no thought to the sacrifices imposed on others. He called for a new form of what he termed, quote, humanitarian competition. This is a giant concept from this paper, and I think it's a super exciting thing for the world, a concept that to look at. Humanitarian competition, in which I shouldn't have done that, right? SAnTiAgo, are you out there? I should just read and not jump in with my silly comments. In which, quote, one protects, extends, and advances the lives of others while doing the same for oneself, unquote, end quote, and one benefits and serves the interests of others while profiting oneself. Okay, that's unquote. Makaguchi was seeking a qualitative transformation in the nature of competition so that the energies of desire, the impulse to do something about one's current situation, are oriented towards more valuable ends, generating happiness for both self and others. Tsunosaburo Makaguchi founded the Soka Gakkai in Japan. It's the Value Creation Society. So he was a philosopher, and he came up with ideas of value creation, which we just touched on a little bit. It then, in 1928, turned into, Makaguchi started to practice Buddhism, and it gradually turned into a Buddhist organization. And Mr. Makaguchi was imprisoned for going against the Japanese militarists, and in 1943, he was actually harassed and interrogated all through the 20th century, actually, because Japan was very militaristic and conservative. A movement really started in the late 19th century, and he really fought against it overtly and was really persecuted. It's a very homogeneous society, as you know, and Mr. Makaguchi was persecuted, getting fired and transferred. He was a school teacher and a principal, and he was constantly being ousted and having to find new places to teach his theories on education and have school. He also taught value creation in education, and then he was harassed by the secret police and imprisoned, and actually malnourished in prison, and died at the age of 73 in 1940. I'm thinking. No, 1944 in November. Sorry, I'm losing. I was just trying to give you a little background. And then Daisaku Ikeda is the third president. Was the third president. He's the president of the Soka Gakkai International now, which is it's a worldwide Buddhist movement in 192 countries, as he said earlier. I'm actually a member of the Soka Gakkai International, and it's a Buddhist peace movement, and actually for individual happiness also, I'm losing my train of thought. I'm trying to go back to the paper. But Mr. Ikeda is the third president, but he's been writing peace proposals and proposals like this for 30 years, roughly. Or, he's published hundreds of papers and books. You can find them on the interweb thing, net. I'm going to go back to the paper now. Sorry, I don't know if anyone's made it this far in my show anyways, but here we go. So Buddhism describes, this is back to the paper, Buddhism describes this transformation in the depths of consciousness as follows, quote, sorry, I had such a and now I'm breaking it again. I do this and I apologize, but I'm going to go back to the paper in a second, but yeah, I'm going to go to the paragraph before, and then I'm going to jump into this paragraph again. I'm so sorry for jumping around like this. But Makaguchi was seeking a qualitative transformation in the nature of competition, so that the energies of desire, the impulse to do something about one's current situation, are oriented toward more valuable ends, generating happiness for both self and others. Buddhism describes this transformation in the depths of consciousness as follows, quote, we burn the firewood of earthly desires, and behold the fire of enlightened wisdom before our eyes, unquote. Rather than allowing the anger or grief we feel about our present circumstances to find outlets in act in acts that harm or degrade others, we must expand and elevate those feelings to become the motivation for action to counter the social ills and threats that bring suffering to ourselves and others. Buddhism teaches that such transformation enables us to live lives that illuminate society with the qualities of courage and hope. If we were to translate Makaguchi's vision and its resonances with Buddhist philosophy into contemporary realities, we would see a transformation of military competition into a striving among countries to deploy their capacities not simply for national security, but also for, quote, human security, in areas such as controlling the spread of infectious disease and disaster prevention and mitigation. This is because the kind of competition that spurs efforts to meet and overcome shared threats will bring desirable mutual benefit to all countries. Likewise, political competition can be transformed from a hard power struggle for hegemony into a soft power competition to develop creative policy proposals, thus gaining the respect of other countries. Examples of this might be seen in the powerful solidarity of non-governmental organizations, NGOs, and forward-looking governments, which catalyzed each other's efforts to bring about a multilateral treaties banning anti-personnel mines and cluster munitions. This achievement was made possible through the pressure brought to bear on different countries to prioritize the humanitarian imperative over the pursuit of what was technologically and militarily possible, as well as the support that was generated throughout international society as a result. The call to establish a green economy in the context of sustainable development and poverty eradication, one of the overarching themes of the Rio Plus 20 conference, could be said to correspond to a shift in economic competition toward modes in which, quote, one benefits and serves the interests of others while profiting oneself, unquote. There is growing support for the creation of a system in which countries can share their best practices, build technological capacity, and support other countries in the application of these technologies. This is seen as an essential means of achieving a global transition to the kind of green economy that is characterized by low carbon emissions and the efficient utilization of resources. It is my strong hope that the conference will reach agreement about such a system, whereby countries with leading-edge experience in these fields can act on the principle of humanitarian competition. The same principle can, and I earnestly hope will, be aggressively applied along the temporal axis in the formulation, quote, to benefit and serve the interests of the future while profiting the present, unquote. To many people, sustainability evokes images of various constraints being imposed upon individuals and societies. But such a narrow approach will not give rise to the kind of transformative ripple effects that are required. Although physical resources are finite, human potential is infinite, as is our capacity to create value. The real significance of sustainability is, in my view, as a dynamic concept in which there is a striving or competition to generate positive values and share it with the world and with the future. Put simply, efforts by people, communities, and societies to benefit others bring to the fore our most positive and creative aspects. Likewise, the most profound improvement to our present condition comes when we strive for a better future. It is through such repeated efforts with constant reference to self and other, present and future, that we can protect each other's inalienable dignity and work to build a world in which all people can live in peace and happiness. The key here is our sense of responsibility to those with whom we share the planet, our sense of responsibility toward the future. Next section is titled Grounded in the Local Community. Although many people confronted... Sorry, I only have a few more minutes. Although many people confronted... I'm only on page 3 out of 14. Although many people, so I won't get done. Although many people confronted with news of horrific events in different parts of the world or of the dire threats to the global ecology are pained and feel compelled to take action, the cumulative effect of the ceaseless flow of such news can be a deepening sense of powerlessness. Arthur and Joan Kleinman, who have been conducting joint research in cultural anthropology at Harvard University, offer this analysis of the pitfalls of our contemporary information society. Quote, thus, our epoch's dominating sense that complex problems can be neither understood nor fixed works with the massive globalization of images of suffering to produce moral fatigue, exhaustion of empathy, and political despair, unquote. I love that. Thus I'm reading it again. Thus our epoch's dominating sense that complex problems can be neither understood nor fixed works with the massive globalization of images of suffering to produce moral fatigue, exhaustion of empathy, and political despair, unquote. To avoid becoming overwhelmed by these feelings, it is crucial to be grounded, to find a standpoint from which one can sense the impact of one's actions and feel one is making concrete progress in transforming reality. This, in my view, is the role of the local community, or a sense of responsibility of the local community. A sense of responsibility toward the world or the future is not something that can be developed overnight or in isolation from the realities of daily living. If we cannot establish this within our immediate relationships and environment, we cannot hope to do so relative to the entire planet or the distant future. The word, quote, responsibility indicates the ability or capacity to respond. It is through the persistent effort to strengthen and forge our capacity to respond to the evolving realities of the community that a sense of commitment toward all those with whom we share the planet and toward future generations is developed. Now he's going to go and talk about the Greenbelt movement. The film A Quiet Revolution is production the SGI supported, and which was first shown at the 2002 World Summit on Sustainable Development in Johannesburg, South Africa, focuses on activities undertaken by ordinary citizens around the world that illustrate this principle. Produced by Earth Council in cooperation with the United Nations Development Program and the United Nations Environmental Program, the film introduces the efforts of people to protect their community, its children, and the future. It features villagers in Nima, Rajasthan, India, restoring ancient traditions of rainwater harvesting, people in Slovakia tackling chemical pollution in the Zemplinsky Sariv Lake, and the activities of the Greenbelt movement in Kenya to combat desertification through tree planting. To date, the SGI has organized screenings of this film in more than 55 countries and territories in order to promote the message that every individual has the power to change the world. That's the SGI's message, one of its overriding messages. Move to action. I don't know. I'm gonna keep going. I think I have about 20 minutes to go. Move to action. The Greenbelt movement, featured in A Quiet Revolution, was started by the Kenyan environmental activist Dr. Wangari Maathai, 1940 to 2011. It illustrates how a community-based people's movement can foster a sense of responsibility toward the future in each individual. My meeting with Dr. Maathai, who sadly passed away last year, took place in February 2005. I am fondly reminded of the embracing smile, bright as the sun, which she broke into when I proposed the planting of a fig tree at Soka University of America in honor of her many years of effort and achievement. To Dr. Maathai, the fig tree was a symbol of irreplaceable dignity and worth in her home community. In point of fact, it was a fig tree that motivated her to dedicate herself to tree planting movement. One time, returning to Kenya from the U.S., where she was studying biological science, she visited her family in Nairi. There, she was shocked to see that the natural environment around her home had undergone serious change in just a few years. With an increased focus on profit, farmers were cutting down forests to plant cash crops. Dr. Maathai discovered that even a fig tree her mother had taught her to revere as sacred had been felled in the process. She observed that landslides had become more common in the region, and that as a consequence, sources of clean drinking water were now scarce. She learned that many Kenyan women were struggling daily with problems caused by environmental degradation. Convinced that, quote, solutions to our movement must come from us, unquote, she launched in her local community what would develop into the Green Belt movement. This movement, which Dr. Mathai described as, quote, a testament to individuals' ability to change the course of environmental history, unquote, illustrates 3 points of crucial importance. The first is the consistent emphasis on ensuring that all participants were genuinely convinced of the validity of what they were doing and were able to maintain a palpable sense of achievement as the movement developed and grew. Dr. Mathai held seminars in the communities where the movement was active and encouraged people to identify the problems facing them. She would ask them what they felt the source of the problems was, and most would blame the government. While acknowledging that was largely the case, she stressed that nothing would change as long as people attributed all responsibility to the government. She said to them, quote, it's your land, you own it, but you are not taking care of it. You're allowing soil erosion to take place, and you could do something about it. You could plant trees, unquote. Sorry about the bad way that I put the emphasis, like, the words. People planting trees would sometimes say, quote, I don't want to plant this tree because it will not grow fast enough, unquote. Dr. Mathai would remind them that the trees people were harvesting today had not been planted by them, but by those who came before. Thus, it was necessary to plant trees now that would benefit the community in the future. Quote, like a seedling, with sun, good soil, and abundant rain, the roots of our future will bury themselves in the ground, and a canopy of hope will reach into the sky, unquote. Sorry, I'm like, moved to, I get a wave of emotion, and I'm not going to cry while I'm reading this, but I love that quote. However lofty. Yeah, I'm going to talk to Peter. Hey, Peter, should I start shutting down?
It's 5-2.
You're ready, so I gotta be ready.
What's the, Okay. All right. What, it's going good. It's still going, but, I think I was actually talking about this thing, this paper. I was talking about this paper. I shouldn't do that. But, no, not at all. If there's only 5 minutes to go, I think I'm going to start winding down.
Okay.
And then, I hope that I know how to shut the show off correctly.
Did you get?
I got it to work though.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Good.
So yeah, I'm gonna shut down in the next 2 minutes so I can put the stuff away, and then that'll be good. I don't know if anyone made it to the end of the show, anyways. Listening.
It'll be archived, right?
Yeah.
So you can make it to the
I don't know if they'll make it to the end in the future either.
Yeah.
They might. Peter's not listening, but he said he'll listen in the future. Okay, great. So I'm going to end with this. So the paper is on the internet at sgi.org. If you want to check it out, it's fantastic. It goes on for thousands and thousands more words, but I want to end with a poem that ends the paper. And it's Mr. Ikeda is talking about a Brazilian poet, and his name is... So it has been my honor to develop a friendship with Amadeu Thiago de Mello, one of Brazil's foremost poets who has worked for years to protect the Amazonian rainforest, quote, the lungs of the world. I'd like to offer as a coda to this proposal an impromptu verse that the poet shared with me when we met in Tokyo in April 1997. This is the poem, and I'm not a great reader of poetry. I live armed with love, to perform my work singing, to construct a new day. Love gives everything without holding back. Sharing hope, I plant the light of new life. Once they tried to silence the cry of my heart's fraternity in the peaks of the Andes, ablaze with flames. But I rose above these flames and continued to sing. There are no new paths, only new ways of walking them. With the pain of the dispossessed, the dark dreams of the child who sleeps with hunger, I have learned. This earth does not belong to me alone. And I have learned in truth that the most important thing is to work while we still have life to change what needs changing, each in our own way, each where we are. And so, hey, I just wanted to, give a taste of this proposal. It's really fantastic. I only was able to get through a little portion of it. I encourage you to check it out. I think there's various places you can find it on the internet. You can find it at sgi.org under Daisaku Ikeda Peace Proposals. And thanks a lot. I think SAnTiAgo's going to be back next week, and we'll have a fun show next week. Thanks. Bye.